Here's an overview of the kitchen before the remod. Later, I'll show a wider angle looking from the living room in, changes I've made there. So the first change, I've moved this island tight against that wall, moved that stove over here, have a couple outlets to repair. I'm going to do a small layout change. I plan on the stove there, dishwasher, possibly a small cabinet here. See how that goes. I'll be spraying the cabinets and maybe some new pulls. Some of the cabinets are missing front doors. We'll see how that goes. Here's the two outlets that need repaired. So what you do is you reach in until you find a stud, which is about there, and you cut center of the stud. I'll cut from stud to stud, a big square, and then recess an outlet in here because the microwave needs to sit flush against the back wall. The other way is to go up through the cabinet and have an outlet, but that's a bit more work, so I'll just go this route. To achieve the depth, I'll run this back until it hits the stud, and then you want to go a little bit more, and you should be right in the center of the stud. Straight edge, level, scar. There's the stud, and there's the stud. I usually don't get that lucky. I'm half on the stud, and that will give us something to mount to with the patch. So I failed to mention, before you cut the hole, you want to make sure your breaker's off. There's no power on here. And you can see it's frayed right there. So that's going to shorten my wire when I make that repair. So I'll put the outlet over here, so I have enough wire to reach. And the microwave has enough wire to reach anywhere in that area. So I'm faced with a couple strategies. I want the dishwasher to land here and possibly a small cabinet here, which means this outlet is in the way, but I can move that over to power the dishwasher and then connect off of that and then have an outlet for the countertop here. But the plumbing is the biggest issue. I'd like to drop straight down right here, but I land in a rec room. So I'm thinking about cutting the drywall out and have it recessed in the wall. I'll have to go through one 2x4 and then drop right there behind the stove, and I'll land in the washroom and then do the hookup and bring my water supply up the same way. The other scenario is take the drain hose and drill a hole through two 2x4s, enter that cabinet, and then go over to the sink. And the same with the fresh water feed. That just seems a bit involved, and you got hoses running through your cabinets versus going over here and straight down. So I think that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to cut this out. Yes. Breaker off. Okay, it's even going to be more work because this wire continues on somewhere else. It's a 4-wire system. Although this is a 4-wire hookup, all wires are heading upward, so I can go into the attic, pull these all the way up, skip this 2x4, and drop it back down into this bay, right where I need it. So I marked that at 43 inches. Here's the box I'll be using. It has these flip outs that snug up to the wall and hold it in place. What I did is I lined it up with the 2x4, outlined it. I'll cut that out. The only difference is I'm going to get another box that's super deep because the dishwasher requires ground fault circuitry. Yes. And then you just turn these screws clockwise and it flips them things up and pulls it tight. So here's the longer version of this style box, and whenever I have more than 2 wires plus a GFCI ground fault circuit interrupter, it's much easier to install with the extra space. So both wires are coming up from the bottom, so we use the 2 bottom slots. And I find it easiest to bring the wires through here first, then into the box, then into the wall. I'm going to try and pull both wires through as I go back. That's plenty of wire, and you want to leave a little extra in behind it. So you get the box flush against the wall, make sure that screws all the way in, and then slowly spin it until it snugs up. Very nice. Don't over snug it because you risk cracking the drywall. I've missed another base. I forgot the 3rd wire that feeds that outlet. So let me get that installed. We'll start back. 3rd wire, 12 gauge, 12, 12. More than likely, there's a nail at the top and bottom. Sawzall. Whoa! Nice! Install new nails. Use a piece of scrap drywall for the spacing. You can see this stud is really crooked, so it made the box crooked. I think that'd be alright. It's behind the dishwasher. Yeah. Ready for the patch? And this can be flush mounted right to this stud. What this area is designed for, so the stove can fit flush against the wall. I've got to run the drain line and the fresh water hookup before I do the patch. Right after I just announced I need to go through this 2x4 and down, well, I went to the lower level, reevaluated my options to run the plumbing, so it turns out it's going to be much easier. I'll show that in a bit. Power off. Nice. So in preparation for the patch, I've installed a mounting block for the outlet, and then I'll just put a notch for the wire. Yet again, I've made another change. I've decided to put the outlet for the microwave in the cabinet. I'll show you why. Here's the cord to the microwave, comes out of the top, and I believe this would be a pinch point between here, right here, and the wire comes up through the top of the microwave, so the excess wire can lay in here, drill a hole through there, go right up through and plug in. I'll be using this style hole saw for the plug. It's pretty cool. Just spins on, and then you line up these notches, and it never gets tight. This is the same style box I installed earlier, only it's the shorter version. So I can reach right up through here and turn the tab to make sure it's in place. Standard outlet. Power. Here's the beginning of the plumbing. Fresh water feed, be about that high. Drain line, leaving it long for now. I'm in the lower level. Plumbing comes in that corner, goes into the washroom. Fresh water feed ties in there, and then the drain comes this way. Ties in here, comes down to the washer. All right, so I got the dishwasher. If you'd like to see the full version of the dishwasher install and the GFCI outlets, I'll provide a link at the end of the video. Now my focus is on this backsplash. It's fading, dated, and I'm looking at all my options. I want it to be easy, efficient, look good, with minimal work, because to rip out all that tile is a mess, and then what do you put back? I'm not a tile guy, and more than likely it would be just drywall, which works. I've sold a few homes with no problem. It's basically a clean slate for the new owner. However, since this has tile in place, I'm going to try to work with it. Then I found out this comes in sections on a mesh, so they just laid it on there. I don't know what their plan was at the end. Let me share some ideas. So here's a close-up of the back wall just behind the spigot, and you can see there's tiles missing, but I don't have enough tiles that I removed to fix that, so I'm going to show an easy fix here. I'd fill the voids with joint compound, install trim, same color as the cabinetry, or white. We got a nice finished look. So the way I remove these is you cut the mesh in between each tile. There's a good amount of grout in there, so I don't have a grout cutter, so I'm just chiseling in behind it. Yeah. Yes. But first, let me do some painting. I've got all the cabinet doors removed, ready to paint the framing. Now we'll head outdoors, spray the door fronts. So we're set up outside at the supply trailer where I have the cabinet doors in storage. So what I've done, I removed all the hardware and installed 2 drywall screws that I'm going to hang on a rope.
have to make some room here.
I've got a tarp, catch the paint, using the Graco Magnum 7X, using bare exterior satin enamel. It's the same thing I have on the supply trailer. Cracked pepper, 2024 color of the year. Very nice. Now we'll do some grout. Wow, that looks great. This is interesting. So, overall, it doesn't look too bad. Took care of the fading. Here's the finished product. I need to address this area, but first, let me lay some vinyl flooring. We're halfway done. Nice. Finished result turned out pretty nice. Here's the beginning to repair this area. I've got the water line hooked up to the ice maker. I have the water turned on. I wanted to ensure there was no leaks before installing the shelf. Here's the valve to the water line, and it's below this shelf. So I built a split shelf system in order to have accessibility to this valve. Fits right in that groove, and that's what this side block is. Support here, and then I'll install this piece in the center, and this block will overhang each side. Put a screw through each of those so it won't fall over. Alright, I'll install some screws. So you got support there, along the back, and right here. And then there'll be a kickboard, and I've got to put a piece across here for the cabinet doors. So the way this is set up, remove this screw and that screw, and these are just floating. They can be removed. However, you can reach down here to turn the valve on and off. But you need to remove these if you have to change the valve. I'd like to thank everyone for watching. Hope this has helped someone. If you'd like to see how I created that arch or other home related videos, I'll provide a link. See what we got for dinner.